lived for over 2,000 years, and not all of them were good.
He's a legend woven throughout history.
He has walked this universe for centuries untold. He has seen stars fall to dust. Where are we going?
The most dangerous place in the universe. Into darkness.
You might want to find something to hang on to.
When disaster comes, he's there.
I'm the Doctor. I'm a Time Lord.
I'm the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor!
The man that stops the monsters.
It's called the TARDIS. It can travel anywhere in time and space. And it's mine.
He changed. He regenerated. They can literally bring themselves back to life.
God save us all!
You met monsters before?
Yeah?
Are you scared of them?
No, they're scared of me.
Tell me, am I a good man?
I know where he will be. Where he will always be. He will have my back.
Doctor Who. The adventure begins.
Listener discretion is advised. It's a jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show.
It's so ingrained in like it seems like the British culture. It's like that's how I found out about it from my godfather who's from Lancaster. So
Oh, nice.
yeah.
We're getting a cultural history here, I guess you'd say. Man, so Natalia, we're talking about Star Trek tonight, right?
Oh,
Oh, fuck. Damn it.
I mean, you
come up a little
could.
bit.
It was the Twilight Zone episode tonight.
Oh, you could, but
No, it's the Outer Limits episode. No, fuck.
Mm.
Different dimensions, guys. We are talking about Doctor Who. We're talking camp,
Yes.
sci-fi, mind-blowing, just wormholes galore, and yeah, TARDIS is flying through the sky. So as we've all reviewed, we got it all down. It's like 15 versions of the Doctor, 17 incarnations, few different movies, and multiple just beloved character actors, one spin-off known as Torchwood. And it's like
Two. The daughter of K9 Company.
Sarah Jane
I
Chronicles.
was so
And-
close.
And there's
And
Class as
Sarah
well.
Jane
And,
Chronicles.
Sarah Jane, yeah.
Yeah, Sarah Jane
There's
Chronicles.
Sarah
and-
Jane, that's
And
right.
if we're looking
Oh, yeah.
really far back, there's K9 and Company, and there's a whole bunch of.
Man, shoot. I was so close.
Torchwood was my fave, though. I won't lie.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, but I totally spaced on how I did watch a bit of Sarah Jane, but yeah, that's right. It's the same universe.
Yeah.
I never watched it. Was it the same actress playing her as was in
Yep.
the?
Yes, it
Yeah.
was.
Well,
Yeah, Elizabeth Sladen.
Yep.
Yeah.
And she passed away while production was going on, I think.
Yes, 2011.
Yes.
That was
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah, she was very, very sick, and they stopped doing it. And I remember they interviewed Tom Baker. Excuse me, guys, I still got a little bit of a cold. They were interviewing Tom Baker when she passed away, and he had this very emotional thing about how he really she was a great person, and to us Whovians, she's always going to be the ultimate companion for the
Mhm.
Doctor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you do have some I don't remember the names on him, but it's always been Sarah Jane and the Doctor.
Mhm.
You
Well,
know.
that's a good point too, because I think that's what this show, if any version of the show gets right, is definitely the camaraderie. The
Yeah.
assistants are just as cool as whoever's playing that person that era. And I mean, just looking I find the merchandise of this is very unusual. Just a very rare kind of mix of how you can find stuff for this just in about any country. Like there's always some fanboy somewhere, whether it's in China or Brazil. Like it's sci-fi is just somehow very easy to kind of communicate and kind of become a kind of a international cult hit. But I think one Christmas I got a pen that was a sonic screwdriver kind of merchandise for my sister one time. It's just interesting how it kind of comes in different forms and waves. And even if you, let's say you're a recent generation versus saw it back when it was on antenna channels, is like you get it instantly. It's like you recognize, hey, that's the TARDIS, that's the that theme song, I know that.
Every once in a while they find a lost episode in another country or someplace around the world as well.
It makes you wonder who was circulating that tape the wrong way.
Well, they just recently found like I think it's a lot of the Hartnell stuff, and I think some of the Troughton stuff.
Yes.
On video.
Oh wow.
And they're gonna like put it out. The guy's having problems like trying to get it cleared. But
that's wild. You think they own it, so they would probably have a.
Yeah, the BBC's like kind of a bunch of dicks when it comes to certain things. Like they won't release certain things, but yet they'll let they did a lot of stuff as when we spoke about Python a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
they took a lot of stuff that was like a lot of TV shows and a lot of stuff, and they just wiped them because they just needed the room for video. And I know that the first couple of years with Hartnell and Troughton are there's stuff missing. There's whole series that are missing.
Yeah,
and
that brings.
They've done a good job with the animated recreations with those. With the Troughton ones, I know I've seen. Those are really cool.
I think all the audio is complete on Troughton's, but some video is missing.
Is there more?
No, Hartnell. That's the one I mean.
Hartnell, yeah.
Yeah, I think all the audio is complete. It's just there's some of the serials are definitely missing video.
Wasn't there a Tom Baker one too that got mix and matched, part live action, part animated?
Shatra.
Yeah.
I just watched Galaxy 4 yesterday. Doctor
Who.
Good story. Was there more animated than that? Because that's the first one. I mean, that was the only one I came across yesterday.
Now that one's been restored. Most of the videos gone from that one, I believe.
Yeah.
I came across a collection about 10, 12 years ago where it was a complete collection from Hartnell up to Tenet, and the all the audio was there that was available, on the Hartnell episodes. There was a lot of production stills that were still around. So whoever put that together, they put production stills and just had the audio over it. It came out pretty good.
Like they did with A Star Is Born when they did that lost footage from A Star Is Born, and they had the audio, but they couldn't find the film. So what they did was
original.
No, the one with Judy Garland, James Mason. What they did was they found the audio, but they couldn't find the film. So they just found a lot of the shots that were used.
Better than nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna give everyone a proper intro. Druts. Is that how I pronounce it? Who goes there?
Hi, it's David.
David from
David Rutsala.
Oh yes, awesome.
Hi, David.
The one who suggested this chat. How you been, buddy? Filmmaker David.
Busy
Rutsala.
but good. I couldn't find the cable I normally use, so it got me behind jumping on and I have the weirdo name there.
Yeah, it's all good. Already renamed. So he is beamed aboard his TARDIS. He's loving the animated chat we're having here. JJ and Tom are back in.
Would you like a jelly, baby?
To quote the Ninth Doctor, no.
I'm your host, Cam Soley, the third stooge. Gil Adler is back in the studio.
Yay.
I love how you answered for him. Movie geek herself, Natalia McCarty, is back in session.
On the back.
Yay.
No, yay.
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 Yay. Animal. Music Rewind host Stephen Epley has got a lot to say.
Yes. Hello, I'm here.
Hello. It's here till Tuesday.
You're here, we're there, and somebody else is over there. Tell us what we have to know. Okay.
James Tonjan Edwards is here.
That's me.
And Paul Derby is animated as always.
It's time to reverse the polarity on the neutron flow.
I just knew you were going to pick a very direct quote. That's awesome.
I thought about going with Mercury links, but I've always been partial to the neutron flow.
I mean, the Pointer Centers introduced us to the neutron dance, so I know. Boo. Go ahead. Sci-fi hardcore fanatic Jace Adkins is also on tonight.
Hello, how the devil is everyone?
Cannot complain until there's bloody hell to complain. But yeah, no, I think this is gonna be a very lively, constructive labor of love, and it was so funny, you know. James and Tom would bring it up on occasion. Paul was like, "I think we should totally do that," and then yeah, David was like the one who hit it finally the nail in the coffin. He's like, "Hey, you know, we got to do a big group chat." I'm like, perfect, and we just always had just a crazy schedule. Now I finally got our shit together at the beginning of the new year. I'm like, perfect. Oh man, so here we are, just something that it's kind of interesting. Have you ever encountered people who kind of got interested in kind of physics and science just from even watching fiction like this?
Yeah.
Because I will encounter like some scientists or even just people who work at NASA or who are studying Hawking type science, and you can totally tell it's like, oh, this show is my religion.
I know a lot of people who are Doctor Who fans. One of my best friends and me, he was one of these guys that was like an ace in physics when we were in high school. You know, where I couldn't put two magnets together to save my life. But he was like he always loved Doctor Who, and when we were in grade school, we had like an official mourning because Tom Baker was leaving, and was it Colin Baker was taking over? Or was it Peter Davidson? Peter Davidson.
And this is what I love. Enough people know this. We're gonna all be able to
and we're all
correct each other.
We're going like, it's gonna suck. Tom Baker's leaving, and I'm thinking to myself in the back of my head later, I'm like, well, you get tired of a role, you know. But to us, you know,
to me, it was like all the crime shows where it's like, hey, the style is the star. They're just various voices in the room. It's not, but I get it. It's easy to get attached to someone and be like, but I do this with other pals all the time where they're like, oh, that actor, they own the role. I'm like, yeah, but there's plenty of other things that are the reason why it works. The writing, the style, the visuals.
Plus, you have to realize too, that's the Doctor my generation grew up with. You know, we didn't know about Pertwee, we didn't know about Troughton, we didn't know about Hartnell. You know, we just saw Tom Baker.
That's a good point, because you do have to catch up on these other eras.
You know,
that actually leads me to a question.
Yeah.
Because like I said, my godfather was from Blackpool, from Lancaster. But then he lived in Blackpool. And he told me about Doctor Who, but how did you guys watch it here in the States? Because I never got access to it until I got BBC America.
I read somewhere that it was introduced to the States in '74. I didn't see it in Iowa till it was like on Iowa Public Television, which I think was around '78, and it was Tom Baker.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense,
like
actually, because 74 is when Tom Baker took over as well.
I definitely have seen numerous eras throughout PBS, and by the time Tennant's was exploding, I was already had seen a bunch of Eccleston and was kind of liking him, even though he was kind of on the record saying, hey, I don't care for that role or the fans.
Right. My first one was to watch was Eccleston, then I had to backtrack, and because I knew of Baker and Pertwee and Davidson, I didn't know, but I never got to watch them until after the fact. So I was just how everyone else got to watch it. I didn't get to see it. I missed out until BBC America, and then and then online, being on social media and looking back.
So you had family in Liverpool, but you were based in New York watching it.
Yeah, like they would tell me about it. I'm like, I don't know what a Dalek is, and I want to know. Stop telling me and let me see, because it sounds fun. And I finally got to see it. Oh my god!
I may be the person who's been watching the longest, because I lived in the UK as a kid, and Pertwee was the Doctor when I started watching.
Yeah.
It helped that he had a
and the thing is
son too.
But we had as little access to the old stuff in the UK because they didn't do reruns on the BBC.
No,
they were too expensive. They had to pay virtually the same cost to the actors and the music people and stuff as airing a fresh episode. So all I knew about Trout and Hartnell was a couple of photos that you'd see in a comic book or something. And they were mysterious. They were as mysterious to me as anyone till like the VHS came out.
And I think it helped, though, in all fairness, how just about every other British actor who had like done anything from a production that was filmed there, like Star Wars, to like other British TV, like Prime Suspect, just almost all of them ended up having a Doctor Who guest spot. And
that's what I meant earlier. I was like, it's so ingrained.
Sylvester McCoy was in The Hobbit, and that's like in his wheelhouse: fantasy, sci-fi, horror.
Here's one that gets me: is there was a Tom Baker episode where it was Patricia Quinn who was in Little Rocky Horror, and then the guy who he's helping out is Admiral Piet from
so many of the Imperials will show up. It's not just Peter Cushing. You'll see so many others, and you're like, you'll see him on I Claudius, and you see him on stuff like this. It's like that guy.
Yep.
Oh man,
I myself, I got introduced to the show through PBS as well.
old PBS, baby.
I started watching it technically when I started watching it. Davison was the Doctor, but I was not aware of him at all as they were airing Tom Baker episodes, and I fell in love with it because I was already digging sci-fi from Star Trek and other old science fiction I was watching. So I watched that like practically every day after school when I remembered it was on.
Oh man!
So I'd watch it, and here's another funny thing too. I did not know about the regenerations or anything. I'm thinking I was like first or second grade when I was watching this.
Man, way back. That had to be kind of freaky watching it in that.
So the way I.
But that's really the audience in the UK is like really young. It's like much younger than in the US. Because I was really young when I started watching it, and it was all that like first grade, second grade, third grade, like age group. That was the biggest.
The funny thing is though, the way they did occasionally show Pertwee episodes, but I honestly at the time frame, the way my brain put two and two together, I thought Pertwee was an older Doctor. I thought he was Tom Baker older, so because his hair was all gray.
They do kind of look similar. It blows my mind too how David Tennant is actually the son-in-law of Pete.
Isn't that
Davidson.
bizarre? I love that.
It's like, what are the chances?
His wife played the Doctor's daughter. Who
I know the wife is the Doctor's daughter.
So the Doctor's daughter is the Doctor's daughter, but also married to the Doctor. It's
Their little short they did, Time Crash, with the two of them together. That was amazing.
That was great.
It was all straight, just fan service, where he's like, "You're my Doctor." It was great.
Yeah.
Well, what are you guys' thoughts on the fan base before it got heated on who's going to play who? For the longest time, though, it seemed like it was pretty laid back. Like it was kind of almost like Python, where if you knew it, you knew it. If you didn't know it, they just shut up and moved on to the next sci-fi convention and talked to someone who didn't know about it. It seems like now
it doesn't have a lot of vitriol like Star Wars has now or Star Trek.
I mean, it does.
It gets animated.
I think one of the most vitriol. Like
I think,
in comparison to Star Trek fandom, like it's like World War III. You know,
I mean, it's
and
yes
when the new
no.
series came back, it was like crazy because you not only had old series fans, but you had these people who became fans when it was off the air, who were their own brand of people, and they were really into the new adventures and the Big Finish audios. So they had their whole own view of what Doctor Who was, and many of them simply couldn't handle it becoming popular.
But the thing is that when you look at when Peter Capaldi was there, and he left, and everybody kept thinking who was the new Doctor. I kind of saw this giant like pendulum swing of when the woman was named. I don't remember.
Jodie Whittaker.
Jodie Whittaker.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was like they can't have a female Doctor. This is bullshit.
It didn't make any sense. I'm like, he regenerates.
I just started thinking to myself, the change. You have to have change to make things go forward.
Well, on top of that, I mean, the Master was already a woman before that point.
Yeah.
It's like, are you that dumb that you couldn't figure that was going to be happening at some point?
Yeah.
I mean, not to mention they also had Romana, who was a time lady.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everyone really showed their ass when that happened because
they really did.
The situation was everyone was so laid back and chill, and everyone was so adhered to the lore of he's a Time Lord. He goes all over the galaxy. There's men, women, non-binary, aliens, all these different people. The moment he becomes a woman, they're like, no. And I'm like, why not? That doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
When Eccleston became the Doctor, people objected vehemently to him.
But no one remembers that.
A northern accent.
It's like, what?
And,
no one
and people
remembers that,
freaked
though.
out that Tennant might use a Scottish accent. So let's people freak out. Like Doctor Who fans freak out.
So no,
one of the big things is it's a show that is about change, like you guys just said, but it's also been around for 60 years, so it has this history. So it inspires like a conservative approach and a progressive approach.
Yeah.
And
It's
so
just that when I was introduced to it and I started asking questions in like communities and stuff, the community was very late, as it was said before, very laid back and very chill. And like, oh, welcome to the community. Yeah, it's about this and that. And then as I think for me, I noticed a change when David Tennant left.
Yeah.
I started noticing a little bit more of an aggression in terms of like defensiveness and everything with the fans.
Well, no,
and I didn't get why. And then
I think you guys are all right. Like, I don't think it's as bad as Star Wars, but it's still like it would be the 6th most toxic fan base. I think it's almost as bad as.
Kind of like
it definitely took a shift there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like
those
Hellraiser. They were doing a similar thing where Pinhead must look like this or that. I'm like, I can tell you haven't read a Clive Barker novel. It's the same thing with Neil Gaiman. They were doing that whole thing where they're like the Sandman is this or that. I'm like, the author approved of this. What is the problem?
Yeah, but they do this with everything. They did it with the Little Mermaid and everything. It's like I think people are just looking for something to hate.
Mermaid was ridiculous. It was like, I'm not going to watch a Disney remake, but it's not going to be because of that. That's irrelevant.
Right. It's just that was my thing. I wasn't gonna watch it either, but it wasn't
like I'm tired of remakes, but it shouldn't be because they look different. They were doing it with Rings of Power, the Lord of the Rings thing. They're like, oh my god, there's a black hobbit played by the guy who plays.
Well, I'm Puerto Rican, so when there was a Puerto Rican hobbit, people were pissed. I'm like, why? Leave him alone. Let him work. Like I actually partook and volunteered to work at the Puerto Rican Day Parade, and that actor was one of the people that were in it. And I was like, I love you, man. I'm glad you're an elf. And he's like, thank you. And I'm like, yeah.
Wait, there's a Puerto Rican hobbit?
Yeah, he's Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
Who was it?
Hold on. I got my internet on. I'll look it up. I forgot his name. I said hi to him and I forgot his name.
And while we're here, we're at Doctor Who's
not a hobbit. He was an elf.
Do you mean Aaron did? He was in Star Wars as well. He was in The Mandalorian.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about.
And besides,
he's Maya Cruz Cordova.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, Aaron Deere.
Yeah, and Ray Donovan. Yeah.
He's
a handsome guy.
The purple Twi'lek they broke out of prison in the first season of The Mandalorian as well.
That's right. Okay.
It's just a crime hiding that man under that much makeup. I mean, just
but like that was the thing. It's like I think with every fandom, there's going to be people that are like, change. No, bad. I don't want it.
Unless it suits my agenda.
Yeah. And I mean, the Doctor they got now,
I can't say his name, but I want to because he's fabulous.
Ncuti
I think it's
Gatwa.
Shuti.
Yeah, I like him.
He's fabulous. I love him.
I like him, and I like how they did this thing with the guy who's now playing the Hartnell Doctor, the guy who was in in Harry Potter. He's playing the William Hartnell character, and they did this thing where he looks over and there's the new guy.
That's another connection. There are a bunch of
smile, and all I can say to myself is, the smile he gave him was like saying, "We've got this. Don't worry.
Yeah,
We're going to take care of
done
this."
good with what I've seen of him so far.
Oh yeah, from what I saw the end of the David Tennant episode where he appeared in it, and I was like, yeah, I think we're gonna.
I was also ecstatic to see the return of the Celestial Toy Maker.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Neil Patrick Harris did a wonderful job.
Oh yeah.
Totally.
I gotta say this though, like, if you watch the earlier Hartnell episodes and the Troughton episodes, the BBC was not giving a lot of money to film on location.
Oh no.
No.
Just like Blake 7 and Red Dwarf in a way. It's that, but it's so wild how you have to put it in that format, because if you do it as a movie, people always expect it to be epic and bigger than it is.
If you watch the one Planet of the Cybermen, which is one of the best ones one of the best Troughton episodes, you can tell that, number one, they're filming probably somewhere in Lancashire, or somewhere there's a quarry. And then there's one part where this guy
that's in every film.
yeah, it's the quarry that's in every English film, and then in one part the guy picks up, I think, one of the Cybermen, and he walks off camera, and he comes back in, and you can see he throws a dummy at the control panel.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was going, I'm thinking to myself in the back of my head, okay, this does look rather silly, but back then it probably looked phenomenal, especially with but the BBC later was like starting to realize, hey, we've got something here. Now we can start giving money to it. And I think that's why, when you see it from then to now, it grew so much, popularity wise. And, the BBC knew they had a hot property on their hands.
Yeah.
And the big problem the BBC has, though, is that because of how the license fee works, like, they don't actually, like, a successful TV program does not generate revenue for the BBC. So it's really difficult for them to throw money at a project, because, like, where do they get it from? So, like, that one of the things that, like, Doctor Who really suffers from is it can be phenomenally popular, but they just can't up the budget. They can't pay the actors more. They can't afford, like, all of the growing costs, which is why, like, the actors change and everything. Yeah.
But you know what I'm trying to say, right? It's like
BBC is a Warner Brothers entity, and now you're shipping it on Disney, so that's a Fox.
Well, no, I'm saying this is back in the '60s when it was still,
oh yeah,
BBC,
by bidder, yeah,
yeah, the British, it was still the BBC, it was still the entity that was the only thing in England at that time. I think probably London Weekend and Thames TV, I think, were just starting up at that time.
I think so.
There was only two like when Doctor Who started, there was just BBC One and ITV. So
yeah.
BBC Two comes along a few years later.
Yeah, I always get the time frame mixed up sometimes with that, but
there was also 405 line television when it started.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I never. Yeah.
So that's why the Hartnell episodes look a little. Even the best restoration doesn't look as good as the.
It's pretty hard to recreate.
Yeah.
Talk about a labor of love, though.
Yeah, I also think the people who watched it had an appreciation of knowing this is a budget they got, and they're giving us this, and this is kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Just be happy. It's
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just watched an episode or 4-episode arc for the Ark in Space.
Oh, that's an outstanding one.
And I'm looking at is it the Ark in Space, or was it something else? Oh yeah, a guy's hand was covered in this green stuff, and I'm looking at it for a while.
Yeah, it's Ark in Space.
Yeah, and it's covered in this green stuff. I'm taking a look at it, and I'm like, that's bubble wrap painted green.
Yes, it was.
That kind of makes it more charming, though. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, you can literally. This is like a mainstream Parents' Basement kind of show in a way, if you think about it.
Yeah,
I mean, I also think it was inspirational.
Yeah, and I mean, when you see all these other serious actors who have guest starred on here, Timothy Dalton's one that comes to mind for me personally, but it's just like, and see how they're kind of adding kind of a charm to it. Also, it's kind of like, yeah, it's a probably a more mainstream independent kind of production if you think about it.
Pretense Hancock, who was on Space 1999.
Yes, there you go.
Was on, I think, the first Pertwee episode when he regenerated. When we find him as the new, as the Doctor after Troughton.
That was Spearhead from Space, wasn't it?
What was that?
Spearhead from Space. It's the first.
Yeah, I think that might have.
With the
yeah, that was his first story.
Because that's the one where he gets exiled to Earth. Because the Time Lord's told.
Yeah, it's war games when he gets exiled, and then Spearhead from Space.
War games he gets exiled, and then Spearhead is like the new version of the Doctor.
Right. Yeah.
It was a forced regeneration.
First one in color.
Right, and it was also that was also all shot on film because of
pretty hard to believe,
a labor dispute.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because if you look carefully, you're thinking, why is it not on video? And I'm thinking, wait, it's film.
There are like little moments throughout the series in the 60s that are in the studio that are shot on film, and you can some even shot on 35 millimeter. When they're in Elstree, occasionally they would bring the TARDIS up there and shoot some of the sequences. So there are Troughton TARDIS sequences that are shot on 35.
Man.
Okay. I didn't know
35. Yeah, David is a film guy. So but it is awesome though, just to know that kind of info, because you will still see
one of the important things to remember is this is like the way Doctor Who was done was how all British television was done. And it only slowly did they start to move to film television. It wasn't really until the 80s that Doctor Who took a divergence and stuck with the filmed exteriors, videotaped interiors, while the rest of British television was moving away from that.
Yeah.
So like shows like Upstairs, Downstairs were shot, exteriors, film, interiors, video. I Claudius, people mention, that was how television was done. But by the 80s,
I Claudius, I just remember being on video. I don't remember it ever being on film.
Maybe it was Betamax, so it kind of gave kind of a VHS kind of look, I think.
No, I think that was mainly.
It's always was filmed exteriors until the 80s when they started doing videotape exteriors.
But it is a good.
They didn't have like the videotape cameras to do exteriors in the 60s and 70s.
It's funny you bring that up though, because I do kind of notice that with even stuff that's like streaming, you can kind of tell what's copied from like the actual source. Like
right. I mean, even Monty Python was done that way.
Yeah, Monty Python.
Video interiors, filmed exteriors.
Yeah.
There was a show called, when you talk about Doctor Who too, I think the one thing that gets me is the stories go from the story itself is I've always said the one thing that gets me is like you've always had the certain villains in the stories. And there's the Daleks, there's the Cybermen,
exterminate,
and then the Daleks, the Cybermen, and then you've got my personal favorite, the Master.
Yes,
yeah,
Richard,
he's a great
one. The late great Richard Delgado, playing the Master, who was like, we don't see him. I don't think we saw him till.
He didn't start until Pertwee's run.
Yeah. And he was almost a regular during Pertwee's run.
Although older, I still think the Mad Monk could be tied into the Master.
A lot of people think that's the Master.
Yeah. And the thing I loved about Richard Delgado is he had such a flair for being a villain.
Yes.
Like there was one I remember. He like the car opens up and there he is smoking a cigar, in the car, and I'm like going, damn, that's a good villain. That's a villain. The Cybermen, yeah, they were robots, and the
Cyborg,
Daleks were
part robot,
part human.
part human.
Yeah, cybernetic life forms.
Yeah, and the way they were made, like I still get skeeved by it. You know,
Well, they're
just the
also
labor
from
of
Earth's
love.
twin.
Yeah.
What was that?
They also hail from Earth's twin planet, Mondos.
Yeah, yeah. But no. But I'm saying the way they make you into a Cyberman.
Yeah, that
You know,
always scared the crap
It was
out of
pretty
me.
much
rip
their
your brain
Borg.
out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, they did inspire the Borg.
They totally did.
They did.
Yeah.
I firmly stand by that. I've said that before, and I've had a debate on that. I felt like
and
Daleks inspired
Doctor
They
Who is
almost like in
also-
one of the episodes, they almost say resistance is futile. It's like they say the line
came
is very
so
close to
They
that.
say it.
Do they actually say it?
Yeah, I believe they do say it at some point.
Isn't it in the fight between the Daleks and the Cybermen in the
Yep.
headquarters? There's
Well,
like a
and
face-off.
just also think of what powers the Doctor himself has. He's practically part of the Q continuum in a way. Snap his fingers.
I mean, that's what I've said for a very long time, is that I as far as Star Trek is concerned, I've always been a Next Generation Trekker.
They
And
practically
I
have the same
firmly
science.
believe Next Generation Trek
Twilight Zone, all that,
was what Doctor Who didn't have the money to do.
I believe there's a comic out there where Matt Smith's Doctor goes to the TNG Enterprise.
Yeah. And I think there is a Borg.
I thought that had
Cyber
David
crossover as well. Yeah.
Didn't it have David Tennant as well?
Yeah, they also had a crossover with Tom Baker's Doctor.
Yeah, so there you go. Yeah,
There's a bunch of pretty ridiculous crossovers.
This is what you gotta love about comic books. They do stuff that wouldn't work as a movie, but still gives the fans some satisfaction of a crossover.
Oh, the Doctor also has a perfect vehicle for pretty much crashing into anything.
Yes. Commander of the ship about to smash
anywhere in time and space.
Crashing in to call the midwife. It can go anywhere.
Well, they basically had a TARDIS in Enterprise as well.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
The time ship that's bigger on the inside. Yeah, it's like
Next season of Picard, they run into Doctor Who.
I didn't. You know, I didn't.
That would be fun.
The thing I always said about the TARDIS. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
The thing I always said about the TARDIS. I'm sorry, Jesus.
Go ahead.
One at a
The thing I
time.
always said about the TARDIS is that it's what's known as a tesseract, which is basically it's a small space, but when you walk inside it, it's bigger than what's outside.
I believe
so
it.
that's So that's a actual thing from physics. You know, a test where you can walk like it's like a confined space. When you walk in, it's bigger because space is bigger inside of it. So that's the thing I love about the TARDIS. And then not only that, but Natalie, when you talk about the Cybermen and the Daleks are the perfect villain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No feelings.
They're
No
horrifying
emotions.
too.
They're also funny. That's the thing that's
Yeah.
scary about them. They can be ridiculously funny.
They get right to business.
It's like they get when a scared Dalek is hysterical to me.
There's a fun Troughton story where he actually introduces the human ability of questioning into their breeding.
Yes.
Oh yes.
I knew we were going to go down the rabbit hole.
So you
Yeah,
got Daleks going, why?
Yes.
I had a little thing. My son had a little parrot thing that was a voice changer. So I started talking through. I was like, "Oh Jesus, I can do the Daleks." So I started hitting the button. I was going, "Exterminate, exterminate, exterminate." He was cracking up the whole time, and I'm like, "Oh my God, I can do the Daleks." And that's the thing about them. But did you guys see the one with Tennant where they're creating the Daleks for the first time?
I think
and he
so.
crashes into like what the original arm is actually like a laser and a gun, and he breaks it.
Yeah.
And the guy, he looks at it, he goes, "What are we going to do? I've got a great idea." Takes a bathroom plunger, sticks it on there, and then the guy who's going to be the creator of the Daleks, who does the voice later, says, "What do you think?" He goes, "That's brilliant. That's so brilliant." But that was the thing. Like, they have a plunger on their arm.
Yeah, of all things. That's
But we don't know. You can look at it and be like, "Oh, it's a plunger," but our imaginations go, "What is it?"
Right. I want to know more.
So on the Daleks, though, I went into Eccleston's series blind. I knew nothing about Doctor Who. Matt Smith was already the Doctor by this point, but it was recommended I start with Rose because I needed something to watch. So I did. And so the episode Dalek, where it's chained up, there's that amazing interface between Eccleston and the Dalek. I knew nothing about the history of the character, but that scene, that's kind of what won me over of the whole show, and I kept going from there.
Yeah, the one line that really sticks out is, "You would make a good Dalek."
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's wild. I had no idea the guy doing the voice was also the guy who they're, playing the guy they based the persona on. It is almost kind of a Terminator kind of thing. It's like, why did one guy become the face?
Davros, who looks like a version of the leader from the old Incredible Hulk cartoons.
He kind of is.
Or I'll take it a step further. He also looked a lot like Commander Pike from
Jeffrey Hunter.
That was a similarity I seen a lot with that character when I first seen him.
The way he's gritting his teeth. Nice.
Did you guys ever see Planet of the Daleks when Baker was the Doctor, and he does that?
That's a good one.
He does that speech. Yeah, he does that speech.
Yeah, Genesis of the Daleks. Genesis of the Daleks.
Genesis of the Daleks.
My favorite episode.
There's a speech where he says, I can, he says something like, "I can create and destroy life just by doing this." But, he goes, and he just has this like point of where he's like, "I can play God and just destroy the Daleks for good."
That's
and
so freaky.
And then he just looks, he's like, "No, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it."
But do I have the right?
He couldn't do it.
Yeah,
because
do I have the right?
Much,
yes. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so much. Even though they're super insanely evil, eradicate anything they come across, there's so much good that came out of what happened with them. All these different civilizations that rose up to fight against them.
They're unsure how to play God, and
didn't Peter Capaldi's Doctor have a chance to eliminate a child, Davros, if I remember right?
Yes,
yes, he did.
Yeah,
yes.
And he chose to save him.
Well, I think he saved him and then found out his name, right? And then was like,
that might be it.
Yeah. I think that's the fascinating thing about the Daleks and kind of Doctor Who in general, is that they can be both the most ridiculous, hilarious, stupid thing you've ever seen, but also the catalyst for some of these really deep, meaningful, emotional stories. And like Doctor Who is all about that kind of that weird duality that it's not like sometimes they're one and sometimes they're other. They are both at the same time. They are terrifying, but also really stupid, and it's brilliant.
Well, that's basically the way it's
Who was the comedian who said, "All you have to do to escape a Dalek is just run up the stairs"?
There's literally a scene about that with Sylvester McCoy. There's a moment with Sylvester McCoy where he runs up a flight of stairs and like mocks the Dalek that it can't follow him, and it just levitates after him.
Yeah,
and he's just
he goes,
terrified.
Elevate.
Yeah.
Here's another thing about the Daleks that I never really made this realization until discussing the Doctor Who lore with a friend some years ago. I think this is back in my teenage years, maybe early 20s, but we were discussing it, and actually I think the most fear for a Dalek is probably from a very young people in the UK that remember back to the war times. The Dalek is essentially a super tank.
Yeah.
It's basically the way to say it. It's very cyberpunk, kind of a little bit of steampunk, I guess.
Yeah, but we can talk about Daleks and Cybermen.
We used to always talk
till the cows come home, but there are so many other great other people, like the Sontarans, the Autons, the Ice Warriors.
The Autons are those are the ones that gave me my fear of mannequins in stores for years when I was a kid.
Yep. And oddly enough,
the angels are the most terrifying to me.
with the first Doctor Who villain was in the very first episode of New Who? It was the Autons.
The Autons, yeah.
Yeah,
I almost didn't
Go.
keep watching halfway through that episode though with Plastic Mickey. They almost lost me, but I stuck with it.
I think that's something else that Doctor Who does really well, like the Autons and the Weeping Angels, is that they take something mundane and make them terrifying. Like I remember the first episode with the Weeping Angels, I was completely fine with until I had to go to lectures the following day and walking through the city with all of just like the random statues around. I was like,
oh God,
nice.
This has ruined it for me. Yeah.
Oh God. I think the one I love
are the Silence, which like I certainly have the modern.
No
batch,
relation to the other Cylons.
But like the sheer terror factor of like, this is why you feel anxious sometimes. You've forgotten the alien that's in the room. I'm like, no, don't like that.
And remember, Doctor Who is the only doctor, is the only person who has ever faced the Beast.
Yes, the Beast is always, and
the
Beast
devil himself
comes in many forms. And well, why you want to talk about fans also kind of being contrarians? I notice sometimes they'll say, "Oh, the Doctor doesn't kill people." I'm like, there's been plenty of times where he's totally killed someone. They just downplay it because it's a family show, but. Make no mistake about it. He'll go there if that's the only way.
He's wiped out tons of things at times.
But it's like Superman. They'll do the whole, Superman can't kill. I'm like, that doesn't mean he hasn't.
But he always gives them a chance as far as the villain.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
he's going to be the bigger man until there is no talking.
I mean, the one with the three doctors, the first one with Hartnell, Troughton, and Pertwee, they have to fight that.
Oh my God!
The bat. Oh yeah, and they kill him. They don't. They let him kill himself. They don't.
Yeah.
They don't. They're just like, well,
is that Omega?
Omega.
Yep,
Yeah,
Omega.
Yeah, Omega.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like sitting there. I'm like, so they're just gonna let him do himself in but they warned him.
Yeah, they said this is a bad idea, but you're gonna do it anyway. So we're gonna just sit on the side.
Yeah, but here's the thing that makes Doctor Who more terrifying when you really dig into it. It's not the fact that he can kill. It's the fact he has so much knowledge and how he can really make your life a living hell.
Yeah.
He is clever and devious. Like that one episode with David Tennant where they had different members of the family, and he gave them all their own personal.
Oh yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah, stuck a little girl in a mirror forever.
Yeah, I think I did see that one.
Yeah, that two-parter was fantastic.
I completely forgot about that till you brought that up. But yeah, that was.
And here's the thing too, because with Sylvester, every Doctor up until maybe Colin Baker, but definitely with Sylvester McCoy, he'd always play off as really light and not really all that threatening. But with Sylvester McCoy especially, you got to see a little bit more of that devious mind.
Yeah.
That dark streak that comes in through some of the episodes with McCoy is like you're just sitting there, you're like, did I just see what I think I saw with him?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, no, that didn't happen. No.
It's funny because when people talk about Sylvester McCoy, they always like kind of make fun of his doctor. And every time I've seen like anything from his doctor, I'm like, that's purposely done. There's a Wonka vibe to this doctor. There's like this, that's happy-go-lucky, but like you don't mess with this doctor. He's dark.
Willy Wonka.
And you gotta realize at that time, I think it was, the show was starting, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the show was starting to lose a little steam.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't taken as seriously as the other episodes.
Yeah.
The problem with that is that I just watched put it on opposite Coronation Street, and so it lost a lot of ratings just because of the time slot it was in.
Wow.
So, yeah.
They put it
all because of Coronation Street. My God.
Holy shit! That's like putting like putting like something against the world.
Some random soap opera,
I think the showrunner at the time had an actual longer plan for a backstory leaning towards the Valiant.
Yeah.
With the darker side of the Doctor. but he just never got the chance to implement it.
Yeah,
they
and,
kind of screwed him.
Yeah, the whole thing was that the BBC at the time, the powers that be soured on Doctor Who because the ratings were coming in, so they were the people who were in charge of then were not Doctor Who fans. They were trying to figure out any way they could to screw it up, and they succeeded until until Eccleston came back, and not to overlook.
Let's not
Paul
gloss over the
McGann
cinematic
either. Paul
masterpiece that is that movie. That is.
To be
we've
fair,
lauded that.
if you see that movie, you're gonna think Eric Roberts is a bad actor. He's not, but he's really bad there. But
there's a lot of things I like in that movie, but there's some really stupid stuff in it. But I did like that version of the Doctor.
Did you know that Paul McGann and Roberts reprised their roles in an audio drama?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Paul McGann's contribution to the 50th anniversary, the little mini series,
Night of the Doctor.
Night of the Doctor was so well done.
Yeah, that was really good.
It was kind of nice they brought
Character
McCoy back
redemption.
for the movie, but I don't really like how they killed him.
In a hail of gunfire.
Yeah.
Just
pretty
walks
wild.
out of the TARDIS.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah.
What's all this then?
I did like his.
And I watched it like
it was
100
worth it for
times.
his TARDIS interior, though.
It was so cozy. Yeah.
It was very nice.
He comes out of TARDIS. Hello. What's all this thing? But I think the thing that gets me the most is when that movie came out, a lot of us were kind of like, it doesn't work that well, does it? You know, it was kind of. I know they had it here in the States on Fox.
Yeah, it was on Fox.
Yes.
96.
I was so forward to it going forward for a new series.
I remember seeing it and watching it in '96. That was the only time I watched it. I don't remember much anything about it except, Eric Roberts being in it. That's about all
I remember
wore
shutting
out
it
the
off.
VHS
I didn't
tape.
watch the whole
I
thing.
watched it that many times.
The subplot with the atomic clock was really freaking stupid.
Yeah, it was very confusing and pretty bizarre. I gotta say though,
At least I thought it was.
I think I don't think you're alone.
I liked a lot of parts. I liked a lot of other parts in it. I liked how they kind of screwed up the regeneration a bit because of the chemicals that were put in the Sylvester McCoy as he was dying.
Yeah, the big
that's true.
controversy.
They did do a transition. That's true. But I mean, I gotta say though, like whenever there's something about those actors that they've selected for these different eras, and whenever you see them, you somehow are always able to connect them to this cult show. Like, I mean, if I see Noah Clark, Prima Agaman, or even Jenna Coleman in something, I'm like, hey, that guy, that gal. That's
true. Even Catherine Tate.
Yeah, she was on The Office last
who
few
had
seasons.
Who had her own comedy show, and David Tennant and her did a sketch together.
That's right. Yes,
she plays the stage. Are you the doctor? Are you doctor? Doctor.
Have we got double English? Have we got double Scottish? Yeah.
Yes.
I love her so much.
That's it.
Yeah, but am I bothered?
What?
I love her.
The best part as well, at the time, my English teacher was a Scottish guy, so we had an absolute field day when that sketch came out.
I bet.
Are you bothered? And then he takes the sonic screwdriver out and just turns her into like a little doll, a little figure. I'm bothered by this. Oh,
I will tell you one of the shows, because I love a lot of British TV, and one of the shows that I would always watch on YouTube was Nevermind the Buzzcocks. And there was an episode, a Christmas episode.
I've never heard of that.
There is a Christmas episode.
Great name.
Where David Tennant is the host.
Yes.
Yes, there is.
He is so good.
On one side is Catherine Tate. On the other side is Bernie Cribbins, and it's ridiculously hysterical.
It is so good. Yeah, never mind. The Buzzcocks is like a music quiz show, and it's got.
I love it.
Yeah,
I loved it.
There's
so
a comedy
much.
angle to it. I'm looking it up now.
Yeah.
That's great. Are there places you can find it? No.
Because Catherine Tate is hysterical, but I can tell. How can I say this nicely? I don't think she's home all the time. but I mean that in a really nice way. She just doesn't seem to be really. She seems to be a little flighty, but I love that about her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great. And she's
I think
great.
she's doing that for the dramatic pauses. Yeah.
Then you have Bernard Cribbins on the other side, Mr. Old School. I worked with Peter Sellers, and I worked, I'm still the Railway Children and all that stuff. And he probably was one of the best British actors of all time. So
How many of these
Really-
people are very invaluable. I think this is the problem of being a sci-fi genre actor. People, I mean, horror guys get this too. People downplay you and act like, oh, you're limited. I'm like, well, no, you're just doing really good in the corner you're located in.
Well, yeah, his character was great. And that was also a nice twist where he was basically directly responsible for David Tennant's Doctor run ending.
Why did you have to bring that up? Why are you reopening
Shows
these
some part out
emotions
of the
with him?
Doctor.
Yeah.
Their conversations in that end of time episode were really, really good. Just the two of them talking.
Just the whole "he will knock 4 times" thing is just like that. They
so wild.
baked that out so well. Yeah, and it's devastating, and I hate it.
Well, at the end of his run with the goodbye kiss and the salute from Wilf. I mean, I still use that, sending it to my wife now and then. Just
nice.
Yeah, whenever the opportunity presents itself, it's the perfect one.
That's when you know you have a household of avid TV people. You're just like, everyone recognizes last night's episode and
This
what
is the
happened.
only regeneration that made me cry too.
It was very well done.
Yeah.
And it was smart. That whole "I don't want to go" broke me. I was like, "Oh, you son of a bitch!" I was like, "Why did you make that so hard?"
And then they bring that back up in the 50th anniversary special. At the very end, David Tennant's going back into his TARDIS and says, "You shouldn't go to Trenzalore. I don't want to go."
Yeah.
And then Matt Smith. Matt Smith is sitting in the museum, and he's sitting there, and he goes, "Maybe I'll be a curator." And you hear that booming voice of Tom Baker. And I was at my mom's house, and I had it on my phone, and I was playing it. And I started crying, and my mom goes, "Why are you crying?" I said, "You don't understand what I'm watching right now."
Yeah,
you don't get me.
I'm watching Doctor Who, but I'm watching the guy. It's like watching John Lennon come back from the dead or something like that. It's like, and he
It's a
says,
good way to put it. It is kind of that weird. This is if David Bowie was revealed to be God.
That was a great analogy.
That's a great one.
It's like, what's the name of the picture? Gallifrey Falls no more. No, Gallifrey Falls. No more. No more. Who knows? Who knows? And he does the thing with his nose, and then he goes, "Oh, if I were you, I probably was you." And I mean, it's this part where he says that, and like Matt Smith's just standing there going, "Yeah, you're the guy, you're the man, Yeah. And then they did it where they had
"We trust you"
a guy dressed up as like they did another like a sketch where it was they do that sketch. It's 2 guys dressed up, and there's 2 guys. One guy's dressed up as Hartnell, and the other guy's dressed up as another doctor, and they're talking. And it was real fun to watch. But that scene when they did the 50th anniversary, I was just like, I was crying because I was like, I just loved seeing that scene.
I subscribe to the fan theory that with the by generation that they just did, that the curator is a future version of now David Tennant's current doctor.
I like that one. Yeah,
that's so true. Yeah,
that works for me too.
Good. Kudos to the producers on deciding to have a lot of these specials.
Hello?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I just
Okay.
My audio wasn't working. No,
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Go
the
ahead.
doctor was coming in, messing with our thing. But yeah, I mean,
Talking about me.
kudos to the producers for deciding to do all these various Fandango events for those various specials too. I think that was a good way to reach more fans.
Yeah.
And promote the next seasons.
I have a question for everyone too. Like, aside from like the doctors, who are your favorite characters that have been on? Like, aside from it doesn't have to be like
Let you guys
the
go.
Brigadier.
Yeah, that was my knee-jerk
Brig.
answer as well.
Brigadier is a good one.
Jack Harkness.
Oh, Jack is wonderful.
Yeah, he was fun.
And you get an additional level of joy to it because he is a Doctor Who fan. So when you add that into everything else, it's like that's what really sets him apart from everybody else. That and the fact he's freaking insane. But
yes, he is.
I liked Nisa a lot, and also Leela.
We'll always be a fan of River Song. That'll be mine. I think she's a
Who's the one who married Tom Baker?
Lala Ward.
The second Ramona.
She played.
I love how that took 1 second.
That was Ramona too.
Yeah,
so there's two Romanas, right?
Yep, there were two Romanas, Mary Tam, and Lala Ward. Lala Ward also played a princess in the Key of Time.
Yes, she did.
Arc.
Yeah.
And that's why
timer.
That's basically why
when Ramona regenerated.
Exactly, because she thought that the princess looked really neat, so bada bing, bada boom.
And she just decided to regenerate. She's like.
So wait a minute. There was two Ranas, right?
Yes.
So there was the one that was dressed like she was out in the wild somewhere, and then there's the one that's dressed like she's like
Oh no, the one that was out in the wild, that was Leela.
Yeah.
So Leela's the one that was out in the wild. So the two Ranas, right? That would be Rana Corbett and Rana Baker.
Nice.
Okay. For anybody who doesn't get, it's a two Ronnies joke right there. That's good night from her and good night from her also. So there was I always think there's like, so I always thought there was one that was like this, and then there was the one that kind of dressed kind of like very pretty and everything like that.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Because I always got confused about that, and I never could understand why he had the one. Because I always thought Sarah Jane was the one he was always going to be with, and then she left, and then they brought the other people on, and I was like, oh, I like Jamie.
Yeah, I like Jamie too.
Yeah, he was good.
Jamie is one of those. Inspired. There was in Tomb of the Cybermen, which I actually have on a CD, the audio version. They actually have a really good exchange with the Doctor because they were talking about Victoria, who was Victorian and wasn't used to it. She was afraid her dress was too short, and he said, "Don't, your dress is not too short. Look at Jamie." And then you got Jamie going, "Hey, oh, why?"
Because Jamie's wearing a kilt.
Yeah,
of course.
I was glad I was able to go back and watch those old episodes and see that, because I knew nothing about those older companions until I watched through those.
We'll return after these messages.
The Jacked Up Review Show podcast is honored to be part of the Blind Knowledge Podcast Network. Join anytime, talk the talk, and enjoy yourselves. There's something enlightening for everyone with this crowd of cool cats. Check them out.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, "Give it up, Jimmy. You got to sink this putt to win." On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world, and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast recs and booty debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in. It's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
Do you ever find yourself thinking about who would win in a fight between Goku and Superman? Hi, I'm James Gavsey, and on the Who Would Win show, me and my co-host Ray ignore anything important happening in the outside world and debate fictional battles between characters from comics, movies, and video games.
We got a new show every week, and almost always am I the winner.
Yeah, not true, Ray.
In the past, we've discussed such matches as Captain America versus Darth Vader, Solid Snake versus the Iron Giant, classic matchups like RoboCop versus Terminator, and even the Muppets versus Sesame Street.
That one was crazy. So if you're a fan of geek culture and love a spirited debate, check out the Who Would Win show wherever you get your podcasts, or check us out at whowouldwinshow.com.
Yeah. And
And
there's
then
a lot
there's
of great GeoCities that were big connoisseurs, fans that they would just get together. Just imagine dial-up internet back in that day, having to scan photos from old VHS tapes showing various characters and what they do.
I like that the show's never really shied away from the tragic lives that companions end up living. Either, I mean, from Adric on, it's kind of even after the Doctor, some of them are just lost in their lives without that excitement, and they don't know what to do.
Well, even starting from Susan, because she, they have to separate.
What happened
and
to
that very
Susan? I don't remember.
It was in the
she stays
Dalek Invasion of Earth.
Yeah, she stays. She falls in love with a guy in that future Earth and stays with him.
Okay.
And the Doctor has this very mournful goodbye that's very famous from the show.
Well, even Donna gets the lottery ticket, but we find out she spent she gave away all the money. So it's like she was just back to being who she was, a temp, and just having her life different.
Yeah. And Donna having some of the Gallifreyan DNA in her, the Dr. Donna, that really just broke my heart. It was just like,
they worked her character really well for this new.
Yes,
Well, in the Toy Maker, I love that scene where he mocks the Doctor for kind of justifying how he treats his companions after.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's like, "Oh well, it's all fine then." It was very, very heartbreaking because you have to look at it from a different point of view. Whether it's who became a Cyberman? Billy. I think.
Danny Pink.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about Danny Pink. Yeah. and Amy and Rory became they died of old age, but they got sent back.
I'm gonna be honest. I know that people had an exclamation. I still don't get it. That was one episode. I was just like, he can go back in time. I don't understand.
It was kind of like
it was
locked, basically. Yeah.
It was locked.
So like
it was like
quantum locked.
Super fixed.
Even if he couldn't bring him back, he could still visit. Like I was just like, he can't just say hi. Really?
Wasn't it like the Weeping Angels were blocking it somehow? There was some kind of weird...
I think there was some outside interference.
The Angels Take Manhattan was a bit of a turning point of writing, in my opinion, for a bit. Once the Statue of Liberty became a Weeping Angel, like, all right, I'm out for a bit.
Yeah.
Nobody saw this thing, huh? Okay.
It wouldn't have been able to move if they had. So,
everybody in New York, close their eyes all at once.
I know. As a New Yorker, that whole episode, I'm like, I don't understand what's happening. Like, this doesn't make sense. I love it. It's not making sense.
I like what they were trying to do, but I do think they could have tightened that ending for Amy and Rory a little bit better.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing too about Doctor Who is we can love the show, and as we do, we're definitely have some episodes that we're like, okay, not sure if I do with this one.
Plenty of nitpicks, sure.
Yeah, like I was so happy for the Jodie Whittaker Doctor. I was like, yes. And I was like, oh, come on. They make this one good because because there's so much backlash. It's proved that she's gonna be great. And the first episode, they make the woman driver crash the TARDIS. I was like, no, this was not what to do. Like, why? Why the first episode?
I was excited for her because I loved her in Broadchurch.
She's
and she's a great actress.
She's funny.
Venus with Peter O'Toole. Yeah.
I think she was a victim of poor writing.
She was a victim.
Yes, she was, and so was Peter Capaldi in
she
that
was.
season.
That's how I kind of was with Capaldi.
She did an outstanding job.
I didn't
with the
feel like it was
character,
warmed up, but yeah.
I thought Capaldi was
weak.
great, but the writing wasn't for him.
That's kind of what I got.
The first season was just horrible writing for him, and I was sorry to see it repeating for Jodie Whittaker, because like I said, I watched a little bit of her in Broadchurch and thought she was fantastic. And I watched her as the Doctor. I got 3 episodes in and said, you know what, I can't do it. The writing just isn't there.
But that's what sucks too, because we're kind of like we're seeing with all these movies and shows, like when they come out, we don't know if they're good or not because you get so many Nazi trolls online, calling it woke and everything. And it's like, well, is it good or bad? Just keep it simple.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Right.
That's how I was with the Willow
the one thing
show. I saw the Willow show and I was like, okay, so it's disappointing. It's not quite there. But I had to get through all that crap before I finally made time to just sit down and watch it. It's like, well, just a simple yes or no will suffice.
Well, the thing I got to say about Jodie Whittaker's too, she was the first female doctor, and everybody was like going, "We can't have," people were going, "Well, we can't
We're
have this."
progressive, but I couldn't do that. Yeah, it's like, okay, so you're not progressive.
Just grow up and get over it and move on.
I mean, that was the thing too. I noticed is happening, and not just a Doctor Who fandom, but in general for a lot of like even Star Wars and everything.
Yep.
The fans feel like they have such a pull that writers have started to be worried.
They hate when other people are in charge, and yet they somehow feel like they're in charge. It's
Yeah,
like,
and in the moment they try to cater, they get upset, and it's like the writers have to stop. Like as much as you always, as a fan, want to see what you want to see. I'm not as much as I want to be a writer. I'm not a writer on any of these shows. I want to see how good you do it based on what you have. Like, okay, you have a plot line that maybe the fans don't want. Write the hell out of it. I want to see it good.
Do a
so
spec
that
script
they
or something.
Disagree with it. It's still greatly done. I felt like they didn't do that for Jodie, unfortunately, because I felt like they had a lot of stress on them to write as the fans would want.
It's like they plopped her in and said, "All right, we're gonna."
I think it suffered from the poor writing. They were trying to make her a little bit as a mixture of Matt Smith and David Tennant, and also and too many companions.
Yeah,
and all that combined, it was there wasn't enough room for story and character growth.
Yeah.
I think they went too hard on like the location filming and things like that as well.
Yes, they did.
And the music was horrid.
They didn't allow her to have any chemistry with any of the companions because they kept on moving them around. She wasn't forming any bonds. Her character wasn't forming bonds like Dr. Who does.
It seemed to be more focused around the companions at times rather than a show about the Doctor.
Yeah,
the first season of Capaldi. That I call that Clara and the Doctor.
Oh, Clara, yeah. Not on the top of my list of favorite companions.
Mine
she was
either.
The advocate of New Who.
I do feel like Clara was better for Capaldi. I do think she worked well with.
I thought she did decent. It's just give her anything to do.
I think the mistake they made with the mistake they made with Clara is they should have kept the Victorian era Clara.
I agree.
Yeah.
That was wrong for me.
She was likable. She was developed. We knew who she was and where she came from, and they had good chemistry. But then they kind of killed her again.
Yeah,
and it's so weird how Russell T Davies, had a big, career. He took time off, and the Stephen Moffat guy, same kind of deal, where it just seemed like he had done better stuff before, but this just wasn't.
Yeah.
Despite being kind of the protege, if you will, it's just like it just seemed like he wasn't ready, I guess, for all the stuff he had to do. So
yeah, I will say that what I saw of the Tennant coming back and with the new Doctor, I do see promise and see that it's going to go in a direction that's going to bring back that resurgence of energy that we had with Tennant and with Eccleston even. Because Eccleston brought an energy that got us ready for Tennant. I feel.
Yeah.
I don't feel it was what everyone wanted, but it got us going. It got our attention.
Yeah.
And how wild
and the thing was, when Matt Smith stepped out of the TARDIS, people were going, "Wait, what?
Yeah.
People were kind of like.
I dropped off at David Tennant. I think that was the last Doctor I saw, and I never saw the ones that followed after.
Now, I'll tell you this: in retrospect, having Eccleston as the one directly following the War Doctor, that was brilliant. It was next level. We didn't see it at the time, but once you saw what came of it and why
those pieces fell in place on that.
Yeah, then once you got to see, got a better understanding of what the War Doctor was going through and what he was trying to accomplish, and the guilt he felt. You could kind of see that move over and look at Eccleston's performance and say that makes a lot of sense, and especially in that going back to the episode
It's also one of his
Dalek.
few good guy roles.
Yeah, and going back to the episode Dalek, you got to see that anger come out. You got to see everything, and you got to see exactly. I mean, it puts his entire run in a whole new perspective. And even when he gives the big speech when they're on that space station, and said, "No, because here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to rescue her. I'm going to save Rutsala from the middle of the Dalek fleet, and then I'm going to save the Earth. And then just to finish off, I'm going to wipe every last stinking Dalek out of the sky."
And on that note, that when you rewatch that entire season, you really feel the joy and his excitement of it during the Doctor dances when he's like, just this once, everybody lives. And you can feel that in his acting.
He does good with handling the serious and then going into the comedy and just kind of looking at everyone straight face like something
Which
bad.
little kid in a gas mask we did not cover on Terrifying Villains.
Oh
yes. Are you my mummy?
There are some creepy kids on this show.
Scared the shit out of my son.
How many creepy kids
I
have they had
wanted
on
to
this
do
show?
that for Comic-Con. I wanted to do that for Comic-Con, and I cannot find those masks anywhere.
Is that how many people
I
you think
want
would
one of
recognize
those
it?
masks so I can just do that. Such an easy costume.
See if you can find one at like an army surplus store.
Yeah, I just
How many kid villains have we had on this show? I think there's been about a dozen, I think, by now.
Was he a villain?
Well, the Family Blood was one we mentioned earlier.
Oh, it's true.
Yeah.
There was also what was his name? It was I can see him in my head.
There's that Mockingbird type kid. It's not really a villain, but it definitely caused some issues.
The one who was secretly trying to kill the Doctor, Turlo.
Oh yeah, Turlo. Yeah, he was he originally
was that the assassin companion guy?
Yes, it was.
Ah, okay.
He ends up becoming a companion though. Eventually.
Man.
Yeah. Digging back into there, and I will say this for my least favorite companion, Clara, for various reasons, but I do want to give a little bit of love to Adric. He was annoying as hell, but the way he went off the show in Earthshock, that you could tell
killed the dinosaurs.
He didn't kill dinosaurs. He created. Oh yeah, he did. That's right. But the point is, the way that affected the Doctor and the companions after that made up for a lot of ill will I had for the character.
Rest in peace, Andrew Sachs. I forgot he was on. He was the Spanish waiter Manuel on Faulty Towers. That's right. So he's played all kinds of goofy characters.
Yeah, but for him that's the thing when the Doctor loses a companion like that, you can tell he's just like it's a shaking thing.
That sets him off.
But I was talking about this a little earlier. I said for the first four, the personality that I kind of developed it as was Hartnell was the professor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the grandfather. Troughton was the Charlie Chaplin clown. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Pertwee was the 60s dandy. If you look at him, it's
well, that's what
he was. Yeah. He was Adam West Batman.
That's what the first Doctor says in the three.
Yeah.
In the three Doctors.
Then you get to Tom Baker, who's the bohemian carefree spirit. He does, he has to do things to save the universe, but he would have a gun put up in his face and be like, would you like a jelly baby? You know, and,
Exactly.
and to just be like that, have that carefree spirit about him. But the thing I
He had
loved
some great
about
lines too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Your husband is very violent.
A jolly old chap taught me that. William Tell was his name.
And the thing that got me was I don't know if you guys noticed the reason why there's been a couple of reasons why Hartnell left. One was that his memory was failing, that he was getting too old for the part. If you watch the Three Doctors, his episode was his thing was filmed separate because he was in really bad health at the time.
Yeah, I think he passed not too long after that.
Passed a couple years after that. I think he passed like 3 or 4 years after that.
And they had another guy for the Five Doctors.
Yeah.
Yep.
When they did the Five Doctors, they got somebody else to sit in for him. And that's the one that always gets me because Baker didn't want to do the Five Doctors. It was all B footage from another episode.
From Shada. It was actually from Shada.
Yeah. And I was, you know, it's you know, it's kind of like the last bow for Pertwee and Troughton.
Troughton appeared in the Two Doctors with Colin Baker too.
Yes. But he died. I think he died a couple, like maybe about a year or so after that. I don't remember.
Wasn't he the one that passed after a Comic-Con visit?
No, I think that was Pertwee.
Oh, that might have been
Pertwee had just done a book
No,
called
that was Troughton who died.
That was Troughton. Okay.
Yeah, died in a hotel after it wasn't Comic-Con, but it was a convention.
Yeah, it was some sort of a convention.
And what I remember is Pertwee had a book that I'm trying to look for called Moon Boots and Dinner Suits.
Oh, that's a nice name.
That's awesome.
I love it.
And he always seemed like a very nice guy to talk to. Troughton, I think, was probably the same way too.
Yeah,
but I always
yes,
heard
he
like
was.
when they were filming the Two Doctors that they initially didn't get along with each other because of, you know, what had happened when one was brought in to take over the other's role. And somebody dropped out.
Yeah, well, it's David keeps having issues. Doctor Who keeps beaming him in and out.
I've read that they didn't get along on set for their Three Doctors.
And then they started to get along with each other. And that's the thing. There's this camaraderie of the Doctors that, you know, it's a club you belong to. If you're in Doctor Who and you played the Doctor, that's a thing you've had for a long time. I remember I follow Sylvester McCoy on Facebook.
Yes.
And he still comes in dressed as the Doctor, you know, even though he's over 80. You know, that's his thing. And
that's cool.
And I hate to say it, but Tom Baker, I don't know how much longer he's got with us. But
did you see the Five-ish Doctors?
The what?
Which was the Five-ish Doctors, which was it was at the time of the 50th anniversary special, and the Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, Peter Davidson, Paul McGann, they couldn't be in the 50th anniversary, so they had this almost comedy skit where they were running around London and ended up being in the museum under sheets in the Curious Museum. It's hilarious.
Nice.
I think it was actually directed by Peter Davidson, but don't quote me on that. But it was hilarious. It's called the Five-ish Doctors. And you see that camaraderie that you're talking about, where those old guys are just embracing and loving the small exclusive club that they're in.
And the thing I hate to say is Tom Baker. I don't know how much longer he's got, but
there was a picture of him not too long ago. He was sitting and he looks frail, but you can tell he's got that twinkle in his eye yet.
He's got the energy. He's got the like you said, the twinkle in his eye, but you can tell he is very frail.
when he goes, he's going to be known. That to us is going to be like losing, like, a Captain Kirk, or when Shatner goes, or when Christopher Reeve died as Superman. He's an icon to our generation from when we watched it on PBS. So, it's going to be kind of like, losing
a genre icon.
Yeah,
losing a friend. That's the only way. That's the only way I can really put it. You're going to be losing a friend.
I think he still held the Doctor for the longest time too.
Yeah, he played.
I think you're right.
8 years.
He played for 7 years. 8 years? I thought it was 7.
7 or 8. I don't remember. I think it was.
He finished in Baker, right? We finished in 81.
All right, 7 years.
74 to 81. So yeah.
There's some great stories out of his time frame too.
Yep.
His second story is one of my favorites for sure. The Ark in Space.
Yeah. So I'll throw this out to the group. What is your favorite episode of all?
Oh man, I'm not sure.
That's a tough
one.
Yeah.
I'll let you guys narrow it down since you've seen more.
Oh boy.
I actually have one in mind, so I will go first. I think Genesis of the Daleks is the quintessential Doctor Who story.
Yeah.
It is.
That would have been one of my choices
so
for
much
sure.
Going forward and backwards. There's the only one that I think it's even come close as far as my geeking out was the one where Cybermen and the Daleks were fighting on Earth.
Yep.
With the classic line that you are better at one thing, you are better at dying.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, I love that.
We prefer you dead. Man.
I liked that was my favorite one too, Tom, the Daleks one, because it's like really the first time
they all run together for me. Is that Tom Baker?
Yep.
Yeah, that was Tom Baker.
Yeah, good point.
The critical phase of the Daleks development.
And you get to meet the guy who created the Daleks, Davros.
Yep,
and
Davros.
Davros is just like Adolf Hitler,
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they were going with. That's exactly the imagery they were trying to create.
Yeah, Daleks to me have always been space Nazis.
They kind of are, yeah.
I will always say it's a toss up between Empty Child. So yeah, Oh You My Mummy is definitely up there. And I think The Silence in the Library, the one where we meet River Song.
The Silence in the Library is probably my favorite out of Tennant's run.
Yeah,
it's a great
good two-parter. Yeah.
Yeah. And seeing Catherine Tate just actually she's of course is always really funny, but even towards the end when she realizes that it wasn't real.
Seeing her play devastated was really
seeing
impressive.
her play devastated is
I think that's why these actors love this show, is it brings them out of their comfort zone on occasion.
Exactly.
Well, in as far as for mine, I there's this Heaven Sent in the TARDIS, or the Doctor's girlfriend or Doctor's wife, where the TARDIS is a woman, are really good to me.
Yeah.
But I need to say The Waters of Mars.
Oh yes,
that was outstanding
that was
too.
so
That
cool.
was such a creepy story.
David Tennant
great.
going full, Time Lord victorious, and saying, screw the laws of the universe, I do what I want. I loved it.
And then it turns out that I spoiler alert if you haven't watched this episode, but it turns out that he defied the rules, and yet things happened the way they happened originally. The crew all wound up dead of one thing or another.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was called Bowie Base 1, that's awesome.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
There's a star babe flying over there.
They were also really creepy villains in that one. Just the zombie water people.
Oh, they were
thing.
so creepy.
I think I really think any of the episodes that dealt with Mars were always good because you had the Ice Warriors there. Pyramids of Mars was a pretty good story.
Yeah,
it's pretty active planet.
What was the one with the giant bugs?
Wasn't that
Space
the
had
Ark
a
one?
giant
Ark
bug?
Space, yeah.
Ark in Space always kind of gave me the willies because it's bugs and I hate I just hate bugs in
Those were
general.
some nasty frickin' bugs.
Then you
too.
definitely do. Then you definitely don't want to see Planet of Giants.
Oh,
Was that the one with Troughton where like there's the moth people and the
Nope.
ant people?
It was
That's
Hartnell.
Some great intelligence, isn't it?
Nope. It was one with William Hartnell and the original companions. Somebody opened the door to the TARDIS and they wound up back on Earth, but they were miniaturized.
Oh, that's
And
right.
they
There's a
ran
problem with the dimensional control or something.
Yeah.
Always those damn dimensions.
Probably something to do with the fluid links again.
Wasn't
That seemed
there
to happen a lot?
Wasn't there something during Donna's time where she had a bug on her back?
Yeah, that turn left.
Yeah.
Turn left. Turn left. That's it.
Turn left. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, Dr. Light episode.
There was
Vincent
also
and
the Jane
Vincent
Austen
and the
novel
Doctor was also a good one.
Yes.
Oh, that was
Vincent and the
amazing.
Doctor.
I
Yes.
cried so much in that
Yeah.
episode. Bill Nye is amazing too. I love that he was in it.
That speech in the art gallery.
Oh God, I still cry when I hear it.
Yeah.
Well, the guy that played Vincent Van Gogh was
Yeah.
spot on.
Yeah.
I can't think of his name.
Spot on.
But
Oh, I
Bill
want
Nye
to
just
because he's worthy of mentioning his name.
Tony Kerr.
That's
his name.
Bill Nye
okay.
turning around playing the art critic and saying, everything. And Van Gogh's just looking at all his paintings, going like,
he chops the scenery whenever he's in somebody.
No, he just looks. He's like, I did all of this, and people are looking at my paintings, and they're still remembering me. Like, I'm gone, and
I know. It's just
it's like he's
very surreal.
And the most devastating part is that it doesn't affect his fate at all. He still kills himself.
No, yeah, exactly.
And like that's what sticks with you, I think.
But that's the thing about that episode. Because I talked about this with a friend too about that. It's just because we were doing. She had her own podcast. We were talking about mental health in television, like how it's portrayed, and that was it with that one. It's that mental health issues. You can see the future, and you can see the positive. It's not going to change if there's an issue.
True. When you feel the lack of control and your purpose,
and you realize the reality of during the time of Van Gogh, mental health aids that we have now did not exist. So, you realize that it wasn't going to change anything because it wasn't about whether he thought he was good or not. It was about mental health is just a chemical imbalance in your brain that you can't really control. It's a sickness. So that was really what was heartbreaking about it.
Yeah, and that was also something else too that I thought about when it comes to Colin Baker's run as the Sixth Doctor. This is my personal viewpoint, but I think that was a doctor who best exemplified somebody with power, but also with mental health issues.
You know what? Yes, I agree with that too.
Did he try to kill his companion at the moment one?
I think so.
Yeah. It was with the time of the Ronnie.
Because even Matt Smith's doctor.
No, that was Perry. That was Perry he was trying to kill from that.
Always some murder going on.
Yeah, but if you see his doctor, when you see his doctor. I'm sorry, Tom. I apologize.
James goes first.
But if you see his doctor when he first appears, he's not worrisome about, he's like, oh God, what do I look at? He's basically looking in the mirror, preening himself.
Yeah, that classic narcissist.
The narcissist. I'm like going, wait a minute. The doctor, every time he's regenerated, has looked at himself and go, oh God, I look like this now. And then this guy's going, oh, I look great. I look pretty. I'm like, oh boy, it's narcissistic.
I say a change for the better, and not a moment too soon.
I think that kind of changed with Tenants because it was more like acceptance. Like, okay, new teeth, That's
I don't
different.
like the conclusion, but I'm
Yeah.
gonna still stand on the side
Yeah,
here
like Greg
because
got it. And
I
then
don't
like
want to be a god
Still
who
not a
has
ginger.
powers.
and then
Still
Matt
not
Smith
ginger.
coming
Ginger.
in, yeah. And like in the sides of his head, like calling it out. Like I thought that was brilliant. You know.
And
But even
Capaldi's
that-
attack eyebrows.
yeah, but even Matt Smith, I mean, I think all of the Doctor Who's have manifested some form of acknowledging of mental health issues. But I think Matt Smith's too had some that were prominent, like in terms of like his self-awareness and self-worth.
Yeah, you could see that definitely in Day of the Doctor with both
Yes.
Matt Smith and David Tennant, because you could tell they had survivor's guilt.
Yes.
Yeah.
And with Eccleston, it was a combination of guilt but also anger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That he was forced into a bad situation and he did not have any idea how to fix it. I mean, if you really think about it, Doctor Who is not a warrior. They
No,
talk.
it's not.
Are you a hero or a coward? A coward every time. And the thing of it is that's exactly what he is. He has a sonic screwdriver. He doesn't have weaponry. He is the weapon. But he is also somebody who tries to fix things. He's somebody who is constantly on guard for things that could ruin a life, even when it's with humanity.
It's a good way
When
to put it.
humanity goes off on a bad turn, you could tell that he's going to step in and say, you're doing this wrong. The one that comes to mind from New Who is the one with Harriet Jones, and Tennant knows she's going to do something bad, and he says, "Don't you think she looks a little tired?"
Yeah.
Mhm. I mean, that's the thing too. He's a survivor.
Yes.
You know, he's a survivor of trauma. So he's going around everywhere and he's like, I'm going to tell you how I survived, and this is how I survived.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys need to survive. That's pretty much his whole thing. Is
Yeah.
The thing with
I'm not a warrior, but I'm going to tell you that you need to survive.
Yes.
The greatest thing about Doctor Who is that his brain is the ultimate weapon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
He
doesn't
actually
have-
gets
Yeah.
collected and thinks instead
Yeah,
of
that
just
it is.
I'm smarter than everyone else and I'm gonna use my
Mhm.
knowledge to downplay you and own you.
Yeah.
It's not the point.
But you can tell with Eccleston all the way up through Capaldi that there's still that element of loss. That's still that feeling of survivor's guilt. If you looking at all of them up until Capaldi's speech about war with the Zygons, that one speech, it lost me a friend once, but it also really solidified what makes the Doctor so brilliant in that moment. He talked about, I've been in a bigger war than you will ever know. And he talks about how he deals with it. And I think at that point, the Doctor has a breakthrough.
Yeah.
He says,
I agree.
And in that breakthrough, it is catharsis, so that it sets up for the Jodie Whittaker one. So there
He's
is a little bit more
actually
joy to work.
listening to all the stuff that's happening in the room instead of no, we're doing it my way or no, we're doing this and that. He's always just trying to come up with a solution instead of just play detective and stuff like that. He's
And that
a scientist in a way, but yeah. Hence the
And that
I'm a
again is a
doctor.
credit. That is such a credit to Capaldi, because I mean, a lot of people would shit on Capaldi, but I think he was great. It was just the material he was given. But I think he was necessary in
it's
that
the same thing as
timeline.
James Bond, where
Yeah, it was necessary in the timeline and the time frame for that version of the Doctor to exist. And like he does take his break if you at the end of it. He goes on he takes he spends a day or a night in Cerulean with a river song, which is how many years, like he takes his break. He realizes, okay,
Well, his episode of Heaven Sent, where he's just by himself in that repeated maze, is a tour de force of acting and character development. It's where he's breaking the hands wrapping around his face aside. That was kind of weird, but just what he does in that episode in the cycles is amazing.
Exactly. And it also builds on something from the 50th anniversary. I found that they're talking about how do we do this? How do we protect Gallifrey? And you hear the Doctor say, well, I've been thinking about this for a very long time. And you realize that oh my God, this is something that literally he can take any point in time and just build on it until he comes up with the strategy, and you realize he truly is a master of time and space.
Yep.
So a minute to him, a minute to us could be century, millennia for him.
Yeah.
And he will have the time to think of anything. In that episode, he became Batman. Batman with infinite time.
Damn it, Batman.
And even with the new tenant, like now that it wasn't a regeneration, he now has his time, you know.
And see, there's another example. It's not the same kind, but people aren't
No.
complaining about that. They're just complaining about others.
Right.
It's like, come on.
But like the thing is, there's so many benefits to it that people are just like, no. It's like,
I'm not the biggest fan. I'm waiting to see how it plays out. I hope that I'm cautiously optimistic, because I don't like having two doctors of live and operating, but I got to wait and see how it plays out. I'm not a writer, so.
Do you know why I think they did that though? Because if any single time they've had a doctor after Tenet, the fans usually go, we miss Tenet.
Yeah. Do you think he's a backup?
They're like, I don't think they're going to have that much of a problem with the new one, but
no,
I think they know that with Tenet, they could say, hey, do you want to come back? And
I would hate to think he's there as a backup.
I don't think he's a backup.
No,
I don't think he's a backup.
I hope Davies has a plan. I hope that in his mind he already has a plan for it, and it's not just there waiting in the wings.
Well,
I don't think it's a backup.
Because like the problem with Doctor Who is that his journey never ends. So he's the ultimate hero who never gets a happily ever after. So we've split off David Tennant to have a happily ever after for like the 15 before him. And then he's still around to like come back for 2 Doctor stuff, which I'm sure they will at some point. But like I don't think he's a backup in terms of like just in case people don't like cheesy. Like
that's exactly what I think.
I'm expecting some sort of he comes back, but he's aging and he's going. I mean, there is the theory that he'll become the curator or whatever. Sure, I like that, but as Shooty and the 15th Doctor moves on, if Tennant does come back for a story, he will obviously have aged, and they will likely write in, well, he's I'm not say human, but not immortal.
I think there is an element like because the Doctor kind of has some sort of like semi-godlike stuff. I think like David Tennant can choose to grow old if he wants to. Like I feel like that's the thing that
they can break the rules wherever they see fit, as long as
back on Matt Smith's run, he was super freaking old there at the end.
Yeah. So was David Tennant when
we're revisiting so many kind of tropes that they've added.
I would love it if they just come on with an episode where the Doctor finds David Tennant and John Barrowman just in their age. John is white now. I would just like that they both have just started aging, because Captain Jack didn't age either. So like I think I would love for it just be like both of them in a cafe.
Just Captain Jack's head.
Yeah, the face of Poe and like wrinkly old David Tennant. Yeah.
You know what? I can see the scene in my head, and I take it from an episode of the A-Team. There's an episode where there's Cylon walking by Dirk Benedict. He points like, "Do I know you?" And he goes, "Nah."
Yeah, that looks very familiar.
Some kind of very meta thing that
you guys are forgetting something when you talk about actors who were on the show. Derek Jacobi was on the show.
Yeah, yep. All kinds of other Harry Potter actors.
No.
Well, he as the Master.
Yeah, he was the Master.
Yeah. And that was I mentioned earlier that I kind of came into that season, or came into the New Who blind. I knew nothing of the Master, Daleks, nothing. So when that whole Professor, whatever his name was, and then the clock, and then changed into the Master, it's like, oh, this is really cool. What the hell's going on?
They set up how the pocket watch worked in an earlier episode in such an
exactly
way.
Yeah,
like that was
a great reveal.
that's the RTD magic, I think. Like seeding things through, like the posters in the background for Vote Saxon, or like the Bad Wolf. Like I'm really looking forward to seeing what the new thing to watch out for in the 15s era is, because like he's so good at like rewarding you for paying attention.
I loved how they revealed the Master in the new series. That was just great.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a bad Master, to be honest. Like
it's probably an underrated role.
No. I didn't like the
well, yeah, that was not the best performance.
Weird regenerated one that was got Baker in as basically played his hand, so Baker had to become president of the Time Lords.
Was that the one where he was on his last regeneration and was sort of like full on Crosscheer the Deathless vibes? Yeah. I really like that conceptually, but
I do like whenever he becomes president of Gallifrey, he runs away.
Yeah. Nobody's ever going to top Roger Delgado. I'm sorry, but Roger Delgado had that feeling of, I'm a villain and you're going to like me no matter what,
You're going to love me.
It was traditional nod to villain. It was just very...
You're going to take me down.
Classic.
Well, was John Sims a known actor before he took overseas?
He'd done Life on Mars and stuff before that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
which I did see there was
Sin,
some of the same writers that were on here. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that John Sin's Master comes the closest to Roger Delgado. Just that he has, it is a sublime performance. You could tell he's evil, but there's also the element of crazy that you didn't have with some of the other ones.
They love lunatics. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of a referendum. You gotta be very crazy if you're gonna be a villain on this show.
I always like when the Master breaks out the matter compression ray.
Yes.
I did enjoy the sort of 13's version of the Master purely for choosing his temporal hiding place so that he could have a Boney M song in his big reveal. I just felt like
yes.
Oh my
the
god.
Rasputin bit
Oh
was
my
just like
god, yes.
That just whole setup was just so good.
And one thing that I thought was a lost opportunity with Capaldi's Doctor was he could have had a much younger person play the Master, and then play off the young old a lot more.
That would have been interesting.
Yeah.
I do like Missy though.
I love Missy Master.
Misty is fantastic.
Missy had an actual story arc as the Master, which was nice to see. As it kind of broke her down to realize, not the, I don't want to say she didn't like go full good, but she realized she's not good, I guess.
You can say that.
She realized
like maybe I did some bad things. You're probably right.
I got a different purpose here.
I did love having the two Masters as well. I really want like a 5 Masters thing to happen.
Oh my god,
that'd be great.
That would be brilliant.
There's still time.
I love it.
Well, yeah, exactly.
You can pull Jonathan Pryce in. Don't worry, he'll do it.
Oh man, sold.
That's the thing too. You get a lot of people from Game of Thrones on Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Was Charles Dance ever on here?
Yeah, I think he was.
I know Maisie was.
Maisie was.
Maisie Williams, yes.
Charles Dance would make a great villain on Doctor Who.
I'm just bringing him up because I just got done watching Paramount's Rabbit Hole. Great show, by the way. And
the Kiefer Sutherland thing.
Yes, it's pretty much person of interest on acid. It's going at a lightning fast speed and tying in all these guys who might be related to hacking elections like Putin. But yeah, no, I could definitely see him doing what he's doing on that show, kind of being, if he were to come in, I could see him as either a Master or a Who portrayal, and he would just be very, very more subtle than we're used to seeing him kind of be.
Bringing him back as the Valiant would be cool.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah. I hope they have some good villains, because personally the Goblin King was a bit of a letdown after the Toymaker. In my opinion,
they did kind of go on a little long, but
yeah.
I think with the bi generation, you have the possibility of having 5 doctors, and I have an idea in mind. Going back to Game of Thrones, have Sean Bean be the master for the first 10 minutes.
Well, then he has
have
to
him
die.
and then have them
Poor Sean Bean.
Oh, that would be great.
I did not watch. I admittedly, off topic, did not watch the second or third season of Game of Thrones because I was too pissed off at the first season. I was like, I can't do this.
No more, don't do it.
Well, that's the thing. That's the joke I make about Sean Bean. He goes to a script reading. He's like, "Wait, I die after page 5. What happened?
Do I have to do
Sean
this?
Bean, be quiet and get your check." You know.
The funny thing is, I think that Sean Bean doesn't actually have the record for the most deaths. I think it's John Hurt.
I thought it was Danny Trejo,
right,
but what do I know?
But the problem with John Hurt is that he regenerates still.
Well, exactly.
Oh, there you go. So I still think it's Kenny from South Park, but what do I know?
Maybe it's Rory.
Oh, we're going by actors, not fictional characters. Well, shit. Fuck.
I can't remember the name of
How many
the
times has the
Rory.
doctor
I'm bad about it.
I mean,
how many times has Clara died?
You're right. The doctor's kind
True.
of semi-died. Yeah, at times. So yeah. Oh, it all comes
I just
around.
can't picture Andrew Sachs dying as a companion of the Doctor, and then John Cleese coming in and hitting him upside the head.
I saw that he did like a voice for one of the restored season 4 episodes.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've said most of what we wanted to say, but this was kind of fun to just kind of reflect on an ever-evolving franchise that knew what it wanted to be from the ground up.
Yeah,
I want to throw in a plug too. There's a movie about how Doctor Who came into being called An Adventure in Space and Time.
Oh, that was
very
great.
well done.
It's beautiful.
Yes,
Speaking of Game of Thrones actors in Doctor
that was
Who,
so good.
And I think David Bradley plays Hartnell in this, and then became
I believe so.
and then he jumped over into and became the Hartnell character in the main series too.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was really neat to see the origin of the whole thing with that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love they did that.
There was. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, James.
The thing that gets me the most is when we were kids growing up. There was Doctor Who, and that was the biggie for us, you know. And then, if you had Nickelodeon, you had the Tomorrow People.
Oh.
And there was Blake 7, which I really couldn't get into that much. But to us kids who were, you know, more into sci-fi and more into Doctor Who is going to be the one that is on the throne. Like, you know, for when we get older, you know. There's some shows come and fall by the wayside, and Doctor Who is always going to be the one that stays there, you know.
Yeah. They're always going to make way for their schedule the minute it's added to their roster.
Yeah, and even after the series goes off the air, finally, there will still be.
I don't know, man. I think it's going to last 5 centuries.
Here's the thing, though. What I'm saying is that even after it goes off the air, there's still going to be people who are going to be coming up with their own stories, writing stuff for the doctors that have already been, writing stuff for doctors that have yet to be. And I mean, that's how Paul McGann really became beloved as the 8th Doctor. I liked the movie, but I love him in his
Those
other
audio
work.
adventures he did were great.
Yes, I can highly recommend one called Neverland.
There you go.
Freaking brilliant because it also has Tal Ward as Romana.
As we said before, every character you can pretty much redeem unless their name is Scrappy Doo.
I wanted to bring up something because earlier in the discussion when you were talking about how the Borg were inspired by the
They have to be.
Yeah. It made me think about other things. Like I watched recently an old Star Trek episode that looked like it was going to be a spinoff for a TV series, and it was Gary 7.
Yeah.
The backdoor pilot. Yeah.
There you go.
And I didn't know at the time till 10 years ago how far Doctor Who went. And it's very easy now to see that Gary Seven could have been very much inspired by Doctor Who.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He even has a pen that's kind of like the Doctor's sonic screwdriver. He's got Terry Garr, who's his companion, so to speak.
And the cat Isis.
Yeah. And then he's got his little smoke machine that he can go and transport and do all kinds of things with. It's kind of like his TARDIS in a way.
Yeah. It totally is. Yeah.
And then there's also the Doctor from Voyager who never took a name. I think Doctor Who's why he never took a name.
Yeah. I feel like Doctor Who inspired so much sci-fi. Because even like Red Dwarf and all that, I felt like they took a lot from Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that it started out as a children's show and it's become this juggernaut that people, well after we're gone, well, the generation will say, have you seen this? This is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got to think too, Matt Lucas and what's his name, the other guy, when they did Little Brit, what?
David Williams.
David Williams. Who did they get to voice Little Britain? Tom Baker. Britain. Here it is, 11 o'clock in the morning, and most people are drunk here in the town of,
And it comes to Tom Baker, I also think of him not only as Doctor Who, but also as the legless pirate in Captain in Blackadder.
There you go.
The woman's head.
I got a question because and this is I haven't read all the books. I know there's a lot of media on it, but was there ever any crossover between Doctor Who and The Hitchhiker's Guide?
Oh
no,
that would be interesting.
Because Douglas Adams
that could work because same kind of camp.
You can have that happen. Just get Douglas Adams' estate involved and.
Douglas Adams was definitely mentioned sometime in the series. I think
he was a writer.
He was a writer. Yeah,
they mention a lot of famous celebs, so it is always funny when one of them actually does show up on the show.
I
there's
would
so many
love to
franchises.
see the Doctor and Dirk Gently as a team up.
Oh, that'd go good.
Well, I know Jinx Monsoon, the drag queen, is going to be playing an evil, a baddie on the show, and I'm looking forward to that.
I haven't seen anything yet, but I read something about there being a transgender companion for the Doctor.
It was,
that's in the works.
Yeah.
Well, they
I believe
also had
Donna's
daughter.
Yeah, Donna's daughter is trans.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, it's about time.
Yeah.
I've always said the one thing about Doctor Who is when you hear that music that Ron Grenier did.
Yeah, the X-Files totally ripped it off.
I agree.
It's even funnier because the X-Files theme was actually done by accident, like it's just shuffling around.
Vince Gilligan is sitting there going, "Okay, we can make it sound like Doctor Who, but we can't really make it like Doctor Who."
That was composed by a woman. I can't remember her name.
Oh yeah, the Doctor Who theme or the
Doctor Who theme.
Yeah.
Ron Grenier.
She never really got credit for it until like years later.
Yeah, Grenier got all the credit for it because it was like Ron, music
TV
by Ron
creators were the
Grenier
worst at
and the BBC Workshop and your Radio Workshop, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
But the thing I love about that is you hear the bass line for that, and then you hear Pink Floyd doing
Run Like Hell.
No, it's not Run Like Hell. It's off of Animals.
Yeah.
It's you better keep, Dogs. It's the dog. It's the one Dogs.
Yeah.
So they're doing it live one time, right? And David Gilmour, they're big into. I think they're big into Doctor Who. So they did the song, and also you hear Dave Gilmour on the pedal steel go. Woo! He starts doing the whole Doctor Who theme. The crowd went nuts.
Yep, I saw it live in '94 during Division Bell.
Oh, lucky you!
I freaked out. But I'd be remiss if I didn't also mention Doctor in the TARDIS.
Oh yes.
Members of the KLF, which went on to get that great hit, 3 Heavy Turtles. I'm Casey. Now back to the countdown.
I love that the drums that drove John Sims' Master Insane is the bass line to the theme tune. That's just a really nice little bow on the things. That
goes back to Davy's great writing there in that era. Yeah,
nice.
It makes you wonder if the new Battlestar Galactica. I wonder if the new Battlestar Galactica stole from Doctor Who in that regard, because they had the season where they could hear something, and it turned out to be all along the Watchtower.
On the Watchtower, I think that's older than
probably. I mean, pretty much that's the thing.
You could be right.
Similar sort of time.
All sci-fi writers are going to pretty much take
wait. What was that about along the Watchtower?
In Battlestar Galactica, there's a running theme where they're hearing this music in the walls, and it turns out to be
along the Watchtower.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that came out in '68 because that's on John Wesley Harding, and then Jimi Hendrix put it out.
The All Along the Watchtower thing, was that part of the original BSG or the remake?
That's the new one. When they're doing
I never watched the original.
Everybody was a Cylon.
Yeah,
not everyone.
I saw the remake. I loved it, but I never saw the original.
Yeah, it was more like Blade Runner. Yeah.
Just watch the first season, not Galactica 8.
Yes, Galactica 1980. I will say there are a couple of episodes that they eventually put together as a movie called the Cylon Invasion of Earth.
Fortunately,
2 episodes of that where it was basically Halloween, and they had Wolfman Jack in it. That made those 2 episodes.
I just want
the only way to kill a Cylon is put him next to a microwave.
No, fortunately, they've been able to do like a season 2 and free in comic book form of original Galactica. So again, anything can be redone the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. So this has been a delight, guys, because I do feel like this is good at just getting us out of our shell and just kind of talking about what kind of makes us tick, what makes us just tune in.
Yeah. If only we'd shown a little bit more passion in this episode, I think it would have been better.
A little more emotion, a little more emoting, we would have been better. But
we were kind of stoic. And
we'll get by.
You can fix it in post, right?
Right. Yeah. Activate.
That was a really good conversation about this. So
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And it was fun how we were kind of quizzing each other artificially in a way where it's just like, remember when that happened? I totally forgot. I never saw that would happen. It exists. I swear. Don't go to the Wicca. Take my word. I saw it with my own eyes. I'm not getting it mixed up. Anytime. And thank you all for being here and educating the world on pop culture.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for inviting.
Thanks for having us on, Cam.
Yep. I'll upload in no time.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Bye.
Let's have a safe year.
Later.
Absolutely.
Dematerializing out.
Yeah, beaming out.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up